Metabolic health is something I'm incredibly passionate about. And so I'll give you some context before we kind of dive into some key concepts surrounding this. But my entire background, well, we're going to talk about my journey in a second. We're going to talk about two key contributors to metabolic flexibility, metabolic poor health, and then most importantly, strategies that you can utilize, walk away with to make this a really practical discussion. Now, this preceded the pandemic. My entire background is in ER medicine, and I was a trauma nurse in inner city Baltimore before I became a nurse practitioner. And I did that for 16 years in cardiology. So admittedly, I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie, but I got to a point clinically working as a nurse practitioner where it was very evident to me that most of what I was addressing with my patients really could be better served by talking to them about lifestyle. You know, the nutrition, the diet, sleep quality, etc. And so 6 years ago, I took a leap of faith and I left clinical cardiology and started my own business. And the universe has validated that was the right decision, but now I get opportunities to speak to people like yourselves on a day-to-day basis, and so I'm very, very grateful. But a really important discussion and very relevant to what we're talking about today. 3 years ago, I went on a trip with my husband and came home and developed what I thought initially was food poisoning. And it turned out I didn't have food poisoning. I had a ruptured appendix. I had the worst abdominal pain of my life, worse than labor. Spent 13 days in the hospital, lost 15 pounds. And during that process, going from being a clinician expert to being a patient, it gave me a profound appreciation for what my patients went through in these lengthy hospitalizations when they were very sick. And one weekend, I was despondent, I was depressed. I knew I was very sick, and they really didn't have a lot of good answers as to why I wasn't doing well. And I made a decision at that point. I was going to get out of that hospital. I was going to give this talk that Christina alluded to and mentioned. And so 13 days in the hospital, went home, weak as a kitten, convinced that I still needed to do this talk, went on to do that talk. And right now it has over 13 million views. And the reason why I'm sharing this is that intermittent fasting is such an important strategy. And I get messages almost every day from men and women saying, thank you for doing that talk. It's made such a profound impact on my life. Relevant to metabolic health is that had I not been as healthy as I was at 47, there would have been a very different outcome. Very, very different outcome. So when I talk about metabolic health as well, it's how I was able to get out of the hospital and not end up in rehab or even die, which is what they actually thought was going to happen. The rest of the conversation is going to be very positive, by the way. So this is a photo of my son and I, my youngest son. He came with me to do that talk, and so this talk came out 27 days after my hospitalization. I willed myself to do the talk for my children to show them I was okay. That was the intention I set. And so you can do great things when you set your mind to it. This is the scope of the problem. So I was born in the 1970s. This is what we're dealing with in 2021. And I posted this on Twitter prior to doing a talk during the summer, and 99.9% of the people that reacted to the photo, it was positive. One or two people, and I did it in the context of this is why we have a problem. We can't pretend that there's not a metabolic health epidemic and deal with it accordingly as clinicians.